The planet we live on is just a tiny part of the universe. The vast space that occupies the sky above us is full of endless mysteries. The dark ocean that covers most of our planet remains largely unknown. The exploration and development of space and the ocean have become important parts of the competition between great powers, because it is a sign of national strength and an opportunity for the future. At clear nights, these telescopes in the Xinglong Mountain in Hebei province open up to receive light and information from the universe. Named after Guo Shaojing, a Chinese astronomer from ancient times, the spectroscopic telescope boasts the largest aperture in the world. In each exposure, it can receive light from 4,000 celestial bodies. The universe is filled with endless mysteries. Where did we come from? Where are we going? Are there other planets where life exists? Since the beginning of recorded history, curiosity has been pushing humans to explore these questions and to embrace the untouched depths of space. Today, the only thing that can overcome gravity and take us into space is the thrust of a rocket. The distance a rocket can go mainly depends on its engine, which is like its heart. Xi'an, one of China's oldest cities, the place where China's most advanced rocket engine is currently being built.
Look at this. You need to figure out a way it shouldn't be so wide.
This rocket engine has a thrust of 120 tons and is fueled by efficient and clean liquid oxygen and kerosene. It can take an 80-ton object to the top of Mount Komolangma within 70 seconds. At present, only Russia and China have mastered its core technology across the world.
The engine cycle scheme is the newest in China and also the most advanced in the world. Its system efficiency has been raised by over 15%, giving it a larger thrust with the same amount of fuel.
In order to give the engine greater thrust and higher efficiency, Zhen Xianhua's team has to overcome many problems.
This is very important for us. At high temperatures, it's limited by certain practical conditions.
One of the main difficulties is ensuring that the turbo pump runs steadily, because massive pressure is generated when this core component is in operation.
If it cracks or leaks under high pressure, it'll cause catastrophic problems.
That amount of pressure can pump water from the Hangzhou River to the Qinghai Tibet Plateau at 5,000 meters above sea level. To that end, the speed of the centrifugal wheel has to reach almost 20,000 revolutions per minute, generating enormous centrifugal force. The slightest technical defect will tear the wheel to pieces, or even cause an explosion.
The strength of the materials must meet very high standards, so that it will never leak or crack in reality.
To produce this advanced rocket engine, people have been working hard for 17 years. Now, they decide to aim for a higher goal. The team are all busy making preparations for a new test that will be carried out on the engine in a few days. The results of this groundbreaking test will be applied to new rocket engines in the future. With this design, the rocket engine's thrust will be raised to 500 tons from 120 tons. If they succeed in this attempt, the carrying capacity of China's aerospace craft will increase fivefold, marking a major breakthrough in China's space exploration efforts.
In addition to the increased thrust, the research difficulty and the technical risks also increase greatly because the rocket engine itself is a power unit with a very concentrated energy density. It has the largest concentration of energy density among all power units.
As the chief designer of this 500-ton rocket engine, Li Bin has great expectations for this test. The team is going to verify the feasibility of key technology. The whole engine constantly swings in the process of rocket launching. Like the steering wheel of the car, it adjusts the angle of the jet to control the direction of the rocket. However, as the thrust of the engine increases, its volume and weight will also increase, making it harder to swing. The way to solve this problem is to change the overall swinging mode, allowing only part of the engine to swing.
If we make a breakthrough in this technology and succeed in this test tomorrow, it'll remove all the barriers to the research to create a new type of rocket engine.
Chen Jianhua and Li Bin have worked on this task for 2 years. The engine is now in place, and the staff is carrying out final tests.
This task is part of a major national project that involves a lot of people. Any of the tiniest faults will result in immeasurable losses.
Attention, please, attention. Please close DQ1.
And this is the second.
With the test about to start, the atmosphere in the control center starts to get tense.
"103, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignite!"
The test launch only takes a few dozen seconds. But if there is a fault in any of the component or the technology, it may fail to stop. In extreme cases, it may even explode.
Very good, really. It was groundbreaking. We managed to complete everything perfectly. The procedural parameters were very stable.
Technical problems in heavy rocket engine design are being gradually overcome. These constant improvements will take the Chinese people to ever more distant parts of the universe. The moon is something that is both familiar and strange to humans, with many secrets waiting to be unlocked.
The Chang'e 1 satellite carrying the Chinese dream successfully orbited the moon today.
The Chang'e 3 lunar probe has carried out its soft landing on the moon. The Jade Rabbit lunar rover will leave the lander and start its 3-month scientific exploration.
China's lunar exploration program has been carrying out moon orbits and soft landings since 2004. Its next goal is to gather samples from the moon's surface and collect lunar soil. Then the soil will be brought to Earth using a variety of complicated technologies. Every step is a challenge and marks a new phase in China's aerospace industry. Beijing, At the China Academy of Space Technology, engineers are developing the Chang'e 5 lunar probe, a major part of China's lunar exploration program.
We can drill the core to overcome this problem, right? Yes, yes.
Lai Xiaoming's team is responsible for the lunar drilling and sampling tests.
We will bring samples back to Earth from the moon. Drilling is just another form of exploration for us.
In order to ensure the lunar drilling and sampling is successful, his team has been carrying out experiments for 6 years. The moon is 380,000 kilometers away from Earth and has a large difference in diurnal temperature. Places hit by direct sunlight reach as high as 127 degrees Celsius, while at night it can drop to minus 183 degrees Celsius. Any machine operating in this kind of extreme environment faces a severe challenge.
The vacuum environment doesn't favor heat dissipation. We have to take into account expansion and contraction, as well as the problem of wear and tear, and break through its adaptability to the space environment.
But the extreme environment is not the biggest challenge they face.
The moon's surface is too large and the difficulties are unpredictable. The worst scenario would be that if it encounters a big rock as it starts to drill, we aren't sure if it will be successful. So we have to do tests on the Earth to verify if it can work well in those extreme situations.
There are rock fragments of all types of sizes in the lunar soil, and the sampler will face uncertain situations during the operation. To prepare the sampler for the moon's complex working conditions, Mr. Lai's team selected dozens of geological samples to simulate the lunar soil. This kind of test has been conducted over 300 times.
Now the pre-programmed no-load slide has begun.
Send the pre-programmed signal.
The various rock samples are placed in the 5-meter diameter metal tank. The test is carried out repeatedly to check how the sample reacts when it encounters different types of resistance. The test continues. Mr. Lai's team has to make this process as reliable as possible. Lunar drilling and sampling is only part of a lunar expedition. After the ascender carrying the lunar soil is launched, another critical moment arrives. Because there is not enough fuel for the ascender to return to Earth, it has to be docked into the orbiter and transfer the lunar soil to the return capsule. This will eventually bring the samples back to Earth. At the remote lunar orbit, they only have 3.5 hours to complete the rendezvous and docking. The slightest fault will lead to the whole project ending in failure.
This is the first time for us to carry out rendezvous and docking in lunar orbit. It's a new task.
A new goal brings new challenges. Zheng Yongqi's team is preparing to start the rendezvous and docking test. Doing this in lunar orbit means that many difficulties have to be overcome.
The rendezvous and docking in lunar orbit will be completed far from Earth, so we can do little to help from here. It adds to the many difficulties for us in designing the rendezvous and docking control system. All the systems will run autonomously on the moon.
As the navigation and orbit systems on Earth can only provide limited help for the rendezvous and docking, this process will be completed by the Chang'e 5 lunar probe itself. Mr. Zheng's team has to create a brain and 2 eyes for Chang'e 5 lunar probe.
To realize completely autonomous operation, we have to create a smart measurement star sensor which can manage itself intelligently. All the star sensors can perform tasks and detect errors autonomously.
If the lunar probe has sharp eyes that can provide valuable information, the Chang'e 5's brain will be able to control the probe autonomously. The sharp eyes are the measurement star sensor. which has to be able to guarantee the success of the rendezvous and docking. In order to ensure it runs smoothly, his team give the eyes a series of new devices. Today's test aims to verify whether this solution is feasible.
Are the optical computer and optical fiber communications okay? The distance is 5 meters.
To date, only 12 people in the world have set foot on this desolate and mysterious surface. However, the extreme depths of our own planet are even less traveled and much, much less known. The ocean is the origin of life. Without it, no life on Earth would exist. But we know little about this world, especially what lies over 6,000 meters below the surface.
I now declare that the Oceanaut's journey begins!
Chui Wei-chung, Deputy Chief Designer of the Jialong Manned Submersible. Ye Zhong, Chief Pilot of the Jialong Manned Submersible. In 2012, they left China and set off on an unprecedented journey. They took Jialong into the Mariana Trench, 11,000 meters deep from the sea surface, the deepest point in the world's oceans.
Jialong asks to dive now. Over.
Jialong, you can dive now.
A dive into the deep sea means entering a world of darkness. In the depths of the sea, oceanauts can only see a few meters in front of them, just as if they were driving at night. The diving process is like taking an elevator. In this crowded space surrounded by darkness, any alarm signal can create a lot of tension.
At first it was desolate, just like the desert. There seemed to be nothing except white sand. After traveling some distance, we probably met one fish. It might think we were strange, but it wasn't afraid of us.
In a depth of over 2,000 meters, there are almost no giant creatures, only small, strangely shaped ones.
After traveling about 1 kilometer, what you see might be quite different from what you saw in the previous kilometer. It's actually a short distance of about 1 kilometer, but it changes a lot. We really don't know much about the ocean at all.
Control center. Jialong has dived to a depth of 7,020 meters in the Mariana Trench.
In June 2012, after 6 dives, Jialong completed a 7,000-meter manned submergence and brought back a rich collection of samples from the deep sea. After completing its long journey, Jialong returned to its mother ship, having set a new manned submergence world record. But this is not the end of the endeavor. After achieving their goal of diving 7,000 meters, Chui Wei-chung and Ye Zhong began to focus on the new exploration.
Is it the moving seal? It's the moving seal, right?
Yes, it is. Mr. Yi then worked for the research and development of China's second manned submersible, the Deep Sea Warrior.
The Deep Sea Warrior is a submersible that can perform very well. It has better technology, design, and homemade components than the former submersible.
Over 95% of the Deep Sea Warrior's components were made in China. and many key parts were independently developed by China. This marked a historic leap, showing the country was able to independently innovate deep-sea equipment.
What's the temperature in the cabin?
It's 27.7 degrees Celsius.
The test in the tank is the last step to be taken before the deep-sea warrior makes its ocean dive. Once in the tank, it will have to complete all the designated steps for a deep-sea operation. All indicators inside and outside the cabin have to be carefully monitored. Everyone is waiting for the test results. After several dives, ascents, and underwater operation tests, the submersible finally emerges from the water.
Making a good submersible requires a great deal of research, and you need to undertake a lot of tests, and testing is just the start.
In October 2017, Deep Sea Warrior went to the South China Sea. After carrying out 28 intensive dives, the submersible eventually completed a 4,500-meter manned dive and returned to Sanya successfully.
With the experience of Jiaolong, especially the test results and the performance of the Deep Sea Warrior, we are now confident that we can achieve the goal of diving to the deepest place on Earth with our full-depth manned submersible.
China has already launched its 11,000-meter manned deep-sea dive program. For Ye Chong, who is still young, the future is just beginning. Mr. Tsui, who has challenged the 7,000-meter deep-sea dive, is also striving for this goal.
Test starts now.
In 2016, he led a team from the Shanghai Ocean University in breaking successive submergence records. They made great efforts to bring back a large number of rare deep-sea species from the Mariana Trench. For the team, the success of the dive was a massive boost of confidence.
In the past decade, I was lucky to develop the Jiaolong manned submersible. In the next decade, I hope to improve China's manned submersible technology so that it'll become a world leader. A genuine innovator should never repeat what he has already done.
Long March 3B carrier rocket has been launched successfully. The first and second satellites of Beidou 3 begin to assemble the Beidou navigation system, which will cover the globe.
New Beidou satellites have been successfully sent into orbit. In the future, when the navigation network is completed, Beidou will achieve its goal of global navigation and break a decades-old monopoly in the field of satellite positioning. Since the very beginning of the development of China aerospace, the researchers decided to rely on themselves to create opportunities and make breakthroughs. The country's main carrier rocket was aptly named Long March. After decades of constant development, China has become one of the few countries with deep space exploration capabilities. Now, Chinese aerospace researchers are putting all their efforts into building a new home in space for scientists around the world.
Many parts of the frame have been cut out.
Tianjin Aviation Town, subordinated to China Academy of Space Technology, is the largest spacecraft assembly and test center in the world. The plant is 60 meters high and could facilitate the space station plan. A variety of tests are currently being carried out here.
In this facility, out of all the spacecraft that are being developed, the space station is the most technically challenging. It has the most complex system.
In 1992, Yang Hong entered the aerospace industry. That year, China put forward a plan for a manned space program. However, at that time, China did not have the ability to send astronauts into space.
The first phase was manned spacecraft. We had a very clear goal at that time, which was to send an astronaut into space and bring him back safely.
At that time, for some major powers in space, manned spaceflight was not a difficult technology. the International Space Station operating in the outer space now was launched in 1993. It was co-developed by 16 countries, but China was not included in the development process. So Yang Hong and his colleagues had to start from the very beginning to gradually achieve their goal.
We know that China was excluded from many international manned spaceflight programs, so we have no choice but to rely on ourselves. That is to say, we have to make innovations on our own.
The manned spacecraft Shenzhou 5, independently developed by China, has been successfully launched.
11 years passed from the launch of the space station program to putting China's first astronaut Yang Lingwei into space. After that, things sped up significantly. In 2008, astronaut Zhai Qigong became the first Chinese to step into space. In 2017, China's first cargo spacecraft, Tianzhou-1, took off. By then, China had made breakthroughs in a series of key technologies in its manned space project and was ready to build a space station.
The Shenzhou spacecraft was very small. If the Tiangong Space Lab is regarded as a one-bedroom apartment, the space station can be a 3 or even 5-bedroom apartment. The station itself is much more spacious than the Tiangong Space Laboratory.
China's space station includes a core module and 2 lab modules. These modules have to be docked into a single unit in space. It will face weightlessness, radiation, and other unexpected challenges. Even ordinary sunlight can become a problem. Lu Chuanqing's team is conducting an anti-glare interference test. Sunlight in space is 5 to 10 times stronger than on Earth. Interference from strong light is an unavoidable problem that occurs when space station modules dock with each other.
In space, the sun may shine directly onto the modules from all directions. The purpose of our test is to analyze the impact of direct sunlight on the docking when we do it in the future.
At the testing ground, technicians monitor the sunrise and sunset every day.
The solar altitude is 50 degrees.
They constantly adjust the angle according to the solar altitude in order to simulate the various conditions that the space station may experience.
Turn the rotary table in a positive direction.
Okay, go for it.
Mr. Lu's team continues carrying out tests. As they're starting from scratch, Chinese aerospace researchers have to work hard to make even the smallest achievement. In 2 days, the core module of the space station will complete a docking. Zhang Wei will conduct several tests to ensure that the space station can be repaired under any circumstances. While in orbit, the spacecraft will age with the passage of time. The International Space Station currently in operation has broken down many times and undergone hundreds of repairs. Repairing the spacecraft requires the astronaut to go out of the module. Only a suitable design will ensure that the astronaut can complete the task within the limited time.
Today we're going to test the product work outside the module. It requires the astronaut to exit the module. The extravehicular spacesuits have major limitations. First, it is cumbersome, then even less flexible after being inflated.
In order to simulate the astronauts' working conditions in space, the staff have to put on the spacesuit gloves to do the test.
The handle is quite close. I think after the glove is inflated, it won't fit in. Check the 6 nails below to see if they can be dismantled. Let me draw an analogy. It's like carrying out a repair while flying an airplane, and you can't stop it if you repair it while in the airplane. If the space station stops working, all the systems such as life support will break down. Communications with the ground will also break down. Therefore, we have to try and make sure it's well designed to facilitate the repair.
Every detail of the design is repeatedly tested in order to get the optimal solution at the minimum cost. the docking of the space station's core module has begun. They're now one step closer to completing the space station.
Did you install the ball into the sample rod?
We have to make innovation and breakthroughs in key technologies one by one. This is something we cannot depend on others for. We must rely on ourselves. To some extent, the technological blockade imposed by foreign countries has actually given a boost to our innovation.
The International Space Station, currently in operation, is expected to be retired in 2024. By then, China will become the only country with its very own space station. However, this is not the end of the dream. Plans are underway to establish a base in outer space, possibly for migrating to Mars. This simulated Mars base lays the foundation for building a home in space. It is being developed by the Space Institute of Southern China, Shenzhen.
We do these sorts of tests in order to explore technologies that can ensure people's safety, especially when they stay in space for long periods of time in the future.
It's a magical process. Different lighting effects are created in the cabin according to the plant's needs. The plants go through photosynthesis, absorb carbon dioxide, release oxygen, and transpire water. This is actually a mini version of the Earth's ecosphere. If we can make this a reality, human beings can become self-sufficient in the unlivable outer space. In June 2016, volunteers began a 180-day test in a sealed space capsule. They were separated from the outside world and survived only on the circulation system inside the capsule.
Since the people enter the capsule, the air they breathe is produced through self-circulation. Fresh vegetables and fruits are planted in the capsule. Water is circulated in the capsule as well.
I'm number 4, the only female volunteer in the capsule.
These are the noodles we made for lunch. I'm the farmer in the capsule. You can see the light in the capsule there. That's the UV light that helps the plants grow.
At the same time, in the Tiangong 2 Space Lab, nearly 400 kilometers from the ground, astronauts Jing Heipeng and Chen Dong are conducting their own experiments. On October 24, Mr. Jing will celebrate his 50th birthday. Volunteers on the ground send him their best wishes by video.
Hello, buddy. Happy 50th birthday. Happy birthday to you.
I can see you in the video. Chen Dong and I are very happy to see that you look extremely well. I want to tell you a secret. We were also growing plants in space now. Let me show you. Although they're just sprouts, they're a great progress made by the Chinese. It's the first time for the Chinese to plant vegetables in space.
After the 180-day test, the 4 volunteers leave the capsule, having gathered valuable experience for human beings seeking to explore space. In the South China Sea, a new expedition is underway.
49497, shutdown successful. Status data?
At the Pilot National Laboratory for Marine Science and Technology, a scientific expedition team consisting of scientists will carry out a large-scale marine observation task.
Release!
More than 30 sets of marine sensors independently developed by China are placed in the atmosphere, on the sea's surface, and 4,200 meters underwater, forming a multi-dimensional observation network. The underwater glider Haiyan is an important part of the observation process. The data information it collects will be sent by wireless signal transmitting device to Qingdao, 2,000 kilometers away in real time.
We should know the relationship between its posture adjustment, tail vane swing, and gliding posture.
Professor Wang Yanhui from Tianjin University and his team are the developers of Haiyan.
The glider Haiyan, like a submarine, can rise and dive. During this process, it can glide underwater using the hydrodynamic force from its fixed horizontal wings.
Haiyan can glide underwater at the depth of 1,500 meters. Because of its small size and ability to cruise for nearly 1,000 kilometers, the glider can travel for long periods. Furthermore, it is equipped with a variety of acoustic and optical instruments that allow it to carry out extensive exploration in the sea.
In fact, this technology has been restricted by foreign countries, including restrictions on sales and transportation, as well as technology blockades. If we were satisfied with imitating the foreign technology only, we would never have surpassed them in marine economy. So we need to make innovations so we're able to compete with them.
After 10 years of research, Mr. Wang's team relocated the Haiyan project to the National Laboratory of Marine Science and Technology, the highest marine science research institute in China. Over 2,000 domestic and foreign marine scientists and more than 10 research ships here are engaging in the most cutting-edge scientific research in this field. In order to unlock the ocean's secrets, scientists work on a three-dimensional network observation project that is unprecedented in terms of sea area coverage, duration, and amount of equipment used. On August 20, 2017, it's all over. After completing its scientific research in the South China Sea,
A tropical
Haiyan makes
depression
its
in the
return.
ocean to the southeast of Taiwan has developed into Typhoon Hato.
Right now, 50 nautical miles north of the typhoon center, 5 Haiyan gliders are carrying out scientific research tasks. Should they leave before the typhoon comes, or enter the storm center to get more accurate data? Mr. Wang is in a dilemma. Because of the lack of observation data, accurately forecasting typhoons is a huge challenge worldwide. If Haiyan gliders enter the typhoon center to get information, they could be damaged or even lost.
Carrying out field observations of typhoons by using underwater gliders has never been done before anywhere in the world. Therefore, marine scientists desperately need the field data. That's why when they urged me to do the field observation, if we didn't do it, we'd never know for sure if it works or not.
At 5 in the afternoon, in the South China Sea, at least longitude 117.9 degrees and northern latitude 20.5 degrees, Haiyan 1 arrives at the designated area and waits. The other 4 Haiyan gliders head to the predicted typhoon center. A network to capture data on Typhoon Hato has been created. Meanwhile, the typhoon is coming in at a speed of 25 kilometers per hour.
We arranged the 5 gliders in a clear sequence at intervals of 50 to 100 kilometers. If the typhoon came that night and passed the first glider at 8 p.m., the second one would be 50 kilometers away, waiting for its arrival. Then, after the typhoon passed the second glider, the third one was already in position, ready and waiting for it to come.
The National Meteorological Center raised the typhoon alert from blue to yellow in the evening.
Hato has developed into a powerful typhoon. Near the center, the maximum wind exceeds the expectation.
It is an extremely torturous night. The information from Haiyan comes in stops and starts.
I still remember clearly that 2 gliders were supposed to rise and connect with us after 3 hours. We'd been waiting that whole time, and there was no message from them. Under normal circumstances, at 1 a.m., it was expected to send us the first section, but nothing appeared. At that time, I felt like I had lost my own child. I can't even describe how I felt. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole.
Hato is now moving northwest. It is forecast to intensify in coastal areas. Maybe tomorrow it will leave.
Finally, the typhoon left the South China Sea, and Mr. Wang got some good news. Haiyan gliders returned to the base with data after battling with the typhoon for over 20 hours.
I was really relieved at that time. I knew that these high-end gliders had gone through a real test. In other words, they survived a typhoon under the bad sea conditions, and it was the first attempt of its kind in China.
As more information and data is gathered in the national laboratory, the ocean is to become less of a mystery. High-end gliders prepare to set off again, seeking to go deeper and farther than they have ever gone before. Together with other scientific expedition teams from the National Laboratory, they will continue to piece together the puzzle of the ocean. Thousands of satellites of all shapes and sizes orbit our planet. Most of them are very large and weigh thousands of kilograms. But there are also newer members of this community, which are much smaller. They are called microsatellites. This is a company specialized in designing and making microsatellites. Wang Yang is the chief scientist here. His team is making a satellite that weighs only 100 kilograms. Their objective is to set up a constellation composed of a number of microsatellites called Shangwen. After enough satellites are launched into space, they will be able to form a space network covering Earth.
The best way to think of it is as Wi-Fi, a Wi-Fi in the sky. If the satellite network is set up, it'll cover 99.99% of the Earth and transmit Wi-Fi signals.
With low development cost and high speed, microsatellites have bright commercial prospects.
Commercial satellite is a pure increment market. By the end of next year, there will be 9 microsatellites in orbit.
Due to their short lifespan, microsatellites must be intensively launched into space in a short period of time. This requires the carrier rocket to launch satellites rapidly. Zheng Di is the president of X-Space Technology Corporation. Today, at the International Commercial Space Summit in Wuhan, his company will brief experts from more than 20 countries on the company's new type of rocket, Kuaizhou.
The Kuaizhou 1A was created for microsatellites and supplemented satellite constellation with a carrying capacity of 200 to 700 kilograms.
In January 2017, one single Kuaizhou carrier rocket carried 3 satellites into space, allowing the company to edge into the international commercial space market. In recent years, the rocket company that has caught the most attention in this field has been SpaceX from the United States. Its competitive prices and high speeds have won it numerous contracts globally. By 2017, it had carried out the most rocket launches in the world.
I remember SpaceX recently launched 2 rockets within 48 hours. This proves its rapid rocket launching ability in a short time. We plan to break this record and launch 4 rockets in 7 days.
The company has shortened the preparation time for launching a rocket from several months to just a few days. The price of a launch is now as low as $10,000 per kilogram, which is very cheap in the global market. This makes the Kuaizhou rocket the best option for Wang Yang's team. They plan to use one Kuaizhou rocket to launch 9 microsatellites into orbit at the end of 2018. The Kuaizhou rocket that will carry the microsatellites has been assembled and is now undergoing final function tests. After the tests are completed, it will wait for the arrival of the 9 microsatellites.
All the results are normal.
China's commercial aerospace industry is entering a new era. Competition is pushing companies to constantly innovate their products and upgrade their technology. The market is unleashing a new wave of vigor and creativity and prompting China to make rapid progress in cutting-edge fields. What is being constructed is the largest offshore drilling platform in the world. The upper hull weighs over 18,000 tons and is being hoisted and joined with the lower hull.
Raise moving beam number 4. Okay, start.
This is the drilling platform Blue Whale 1. It is 37 stories high from the bottom of the ship to the top of the rig. Its deck is as large as a football field. Its maximum drilling depth exceeds that of the Mariana Trench. The body of Blue Whale 1 is strong and solid enough to resist violent storms and pounding waves. Its internal components work with the precision of a clock. Tens of thousands of devices work together. The total length of the pipelines would extend from Shanghai to Beijing. Each line plays a role in allowing Blue Whale 1 to successfully operate under the sea. Innovation is not only about reform, but also the spirit of craftsmanship. Blue Whale 1 represents the highest level of marine engineering in the world. It can exploit oil and gas in any area under the sea. In May 2017, Blue Whale 1 set off for the South China Sea to start exploiting the combustible ice, solid natural gas.
Elvie, go ahead. Pete, go ahead.
Blue Whale 1 has been in operation for 60 days. The amount of natural gas it mined set a world record.
Close the valve of the pipe nozzle.
Roger.
When we set off in pursuit of our dreams, we always long for the moment of success. But before that moment comes, we must embark on a journey that is filled with failures and risks. In an era of rapid development, China is embracing unprecedented opportunities. Its people are confident in the face of unknown challenges that may occur on the way. The future belongs to pioneers. The century belongs to innovators. This is a historic opportunity for China. In the confusion brought about by transition, what can we do to reverse the situation? What will give the country vitality after the pain of transformation? Please stay tuned for the episode 6 of China Reinvents Itself, The Ride.